Okay, guys, let's get started. My name is Monica Weekly. If you've been on any of these Espresso Agent webinars, you recognize this mug. I'm here just to do the introductions and some housekeeping and to introduce our guests I guess we do this about every other week. We do it about twice a month, and we just have some of the most fabulous real estate coaches, real estate agents, just some of the best, and today is no exception. With Debbie Grote, we're so happy that you're here, Debbie. I'm going to introduce you in a second. Let me do our normal little couple housekeeping items while a few more people pop on here. As you'll note, we have you guys on mute, and that is for your listening enjoyment, because you know how that is. Somebody always has something going on in the background, and it's really kind of distracting. So we put you on mute, but that certainly does not mean that we don't want to hear from you guys. We really do. And that's why I want you to use your chat bar, the Q&A bar. Any question that is in your mind while Debbie is talking, please ask it, because somebody else is thinking the same thing, and it's probably a great question. If I can't interject at the moment with Debbie while she's on a roll of some incredible tidbit for us, we'll circle back to it, okay? But promise.
And by the way, Monica, if I'm going to be able to see you, just give me this.
Okay, I can do that.
And I'll stop. Okay, so that way I'm not annoying everyone saying, do you have a question? If I see you do that, we'll stop on a dime and we'll handle their question. We absolutely want to make it as interactive as we possibly can.
I love it. Yeah, guys, let's shoot for, 10 to 20 questions this round. I'm going to be counting. I'm going to grade you guys as a group, okay? And then always the question is asked, hey, can I go back and watch this? Can I see this again? And the answer is yes. Espresso Agent has a YouTube channel. And it's actually pretty amazing because every one of these sessions is on the YouTube channel. So not only can you go back and see this one with Debbie today, but actually Debbie's been with us before, did a great session before, and tons of other coaches too. So go to their YouTube channel, subscribe to it, or just go check it out. But you will be able to see this again. I recommend if there's a particular slide that you feel like is something you want to reference back, just go ahead and take a quick picture of it with your camera. Is that okay if they do that, Debbie?
Of course, absolutely.
Perfect, let's do that. All right, so today we are so happy to have Miss Debbie Grote here. Debbie runs Excellium Coaching. Am I saying that right?
You are. Excellium Coaching and Consulting. You got it.
Perfectly. Perfect. So Debbie's in California, has achieved an incredible amount of success in real estate over I can't believe 2 decades, because you're like, what, 34?
Oh, yes. Started when I was 3, right? Yeah. Well, actually started when I was 17 and a half in the real estate office and waiting until I could turn 18 to get my license. So yeah, I've been at it for a little while.
That is actually very young to get into this business, and amazing that you're still here and achieving at such a high level. And then luckily enough, decided to build a coaching company and help a lot more people than just being a single agent. So congratulations on that level of success. And guys, if you're interested in what her coaching company has to offer you, she's going to talk about it at the end, just how you can call, and I'm sure there's some sort of initial conversation that can go on just to see if coaching with Debbie and her coaches could be a good fit for you and help you achieve your goals. Is that fair?
It's fair. And by the way, guys, just so you know, we're going to make this all content rich. I so appreciate this opportunity to be with you today. So there will not be a commercial or here's what the coaching costs, none of that stuff, okay? Right. What we'll do at the end as really my gift as a way of thanking Espresso Agent for even bringing me to you is if you have an interest in having a conversation with one of my coaches, we're gonna give you a free opportunity to do that on a complimentary strategy called No Strings Attached, not with some salesman on a floor, but one of my coaches that are all 25 to 40-year industry veterans, and they will do a fabulous call for you. So that's it. The rest of it, we're just going to talk about great content.
That's awesome, and we obviously appreciate that, but I know some people are going to connect with you through this, and that's a great opportunity for them. So let's talk about listings and you, and take it away, and we're all right.
You
Right.
got it. So, guys, as we get started here today, I always like to begin by saying that at Excellium, we are passionate about looking at each person we work with as unique. And the reason it's important to bring this up is as we go through the webinar today, I am absolutely fine with the fact that you may not do every single thing we talk about, right? Everything may not be a fit for you. I don't believe in one size fits all cookie cutter approach to selling real estate. And we certainly don't believe in that here at Excellium when it comes to coaching you. Because, just as Monica and I were talking about different personality styles, each of you have a different approach to the business. You have a different areas of the business that you feel more comfortable working. So my goal today is give you lots of great information. And I would just ask that you commit to putting things away, focusing. You invested the time to be here with us. Grab a scratch pad and a pen. And I want you to look for at least 2 to 3 good takeaways, things that you can take right out into the field and put into action, because then it will be worth it. Right? And if you're thinking, oh, great, they're going to record it so I can skip out early and listen to it later, I would encourage you to stay on with us. And the reason I say that is you're very busy and you might not circle back to it. Now, it's going to be there for you if you want to re-listen, but stay with us because the very best idea you need might be the one that comes up after you've left. Okay. And we want to give you some gifts today. One I already mentioned, which is a complimentary business strategy call with one of our coaches. If you choose to arrange that, very easy. One of our team will call you, spend 10 minutes, find out what you'd like to get help with, and then I will select my coach that's the best fit for you. And we're also going to send you some scripts, okay? Because as we go through some of the things today, we'll talk about some dialogue, some approaches, and usually people say, well, I'd like to have that script. So we're going to send you a gift of some scripts to thank you for being here. Some of you on this call may be veterans, and you may be feeling a little bit frustrated right now with the fact that you don't have all the listings you need. Now, we work with agents all across North America and, including, as you mentioned, Monica, we do a lot of work in Canada, and it is a tight listing market. And if you look at that and say, well, what is causing that? The economy is pretty good. Why is this happening? Well, I read the other day that the average seller only moves now every 11 years. Now, it used to be 6, and then it was 7. Now, of course, we've got this whole wave of millennial buyers buying up all the properties right now in their first-time buyer price range. So we may see a change in that in the next 2 to 4 years. However, right now, it's a little bit of a bottleneck. And I know you may be struggling to get the inventory that you want, just like Hugo was. So we gave him some good ideas. He took them, went out into the field, and you can see he has had some great success. So I want that same thing to happen for you. Now, Boris is actually in Canada, in Toronto. And here's what was unique about Boris. And I want to bring this up because this might be what some of you are feeling at the moment. Boris is a very good agent, very good, 13 years in the business, very professional. And yet he was finding that his market was so hyper competitive that he was only taking about 48% of the listings he went out on. And they were just grinding on commission. And he was a little bit stuck in that. And so you can see what happened when we helped him and we worked with him on some of the things that we're going to do and talk about today. So that's why you're going to want to stay on with us. So of course, we want to win once you get to the table, but we've got to get you to the table. Now, that's one of the things I hear people say, once I get there, I'm pretty good, but I got to get there. But here's something to consider. If you have been mostly going out on listing appointments with people that you know, customer loyalty in all industries is down. It's not what it used to be. You guys know that's true, right? You see a house pop up on the MLS with a past client, you're thinking, what the heck? or your friend, why didn't they call me? And I think there's just such an onslaught of marketing. I read a book the other day that said the average consumer, if they drive to work, turn on the computer, watch a little TV, listen to the radio, look at their phone, potentially in a week, they can be hit with as many as 60,000 high quality ad messages. So yes, we got to get you to the table, but once you're there, it is game on. We have got to assume that no matter who they are, no matter how well you know them, I would like you to go in assuming that you're probably going to have to compete for that listing. Now, if you're lucky enough that that is not the case, perfect. But I never want you to go in there and be unprepared. Just yesterday, an agent told me, Debbie, it's a client that I've sold 4 properties for over the last 15 years. They called me and what they said is, can you come over? I want to list my property and get it sold. So what they heard is they're going to sign with me. They walked in, they didn't have much prepared, had the listing agreement, said, okay, let's get it on the market. And they said, whoa, 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 we're interviewing 3 agents. Well, they weren't prepared for the interview. And ultimately, they did not get the listing, which, shame on that client after they did a great job for them 4 times, but it is the way it is. So I would encourage you to look at your skills overall, your scripting, your process, your preparation, the materials that you're taking in. And remember, today's seller, they're very savvy. They don't want to be pitched at. My husband was watching last night. He was flipping channels. It was an old Clint Eastwood movie, Monica, and they had the snake oil salesman. Remember those guys with their cart and they're selling snake oil, right?
Right.
Classic pitch.
I don't remember.
Yep, classic pitch. And they don't want that from us. They want to partner. They want to be engaged in the conversation. And here's what they really want, guys. They want to feel that you are the champion of their home and of their values. Don't you agree, Monica?
100%.
Yeah. So now, if we want to get you to the table more often, though, and if you don't have all the listings you want, which if you did, you probably wouldn't be here with us today. So I assume you'd like a few more. So we have to embrace the fact that it's time to expand what you do. Now, there's a lot of ways you could expand. You could work a bigger geographic territory. You could expand how many people you talk to every day, talk to more contacts, which probably many of you should do. You could expand the types of prospecting methods, add something new, and you could even expand your price range. So in our work with Boris, he was in a high-end market. His average price was around 1 to 1.5 million. And when we worked with him, we got that up to 3 million. Now we're working to get it up to 5 million because that's the niche he happens to want to be in. Now, here's another way you could expand. If you have been cutting commission, you could expand your skill in overcoming the commission objection, or you could expand your listing taken ratio. See, sometimes, Monica, people think, well, I just have to work a lot more hours. And that's not always the case, guys. It may be skill, or it may be strategy, and it could even be how you're marketing yourself. I would suggest that most of you, if you're like most of the terrific agents I meet, you probably could stand to talk to a few more people each day. Now, we have something here in the coaching that we encourage our clients to do as their minimum standard. So again, not their maximum. Some of you may be doing a lot more than this, but their minimum standard, we call it the 5, 5, 5, and 5. So that's 5 eye-to-eye or ear-to-ear conversations a day with a decision-making adult about a new potential real estate opportunity. So it can be on the phone. Maybe you're at Starbucks and you see a past client and you're talking to them there. Maybe you go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting and you have 3 great real estate conversations. But 5 quality conversations a day, 5 texts a day that lead to a new potential opportunity or follow up on an opportunity, 5 emails a day. I'm not talking about an e-blast to your database, but very specific, targeted to a person to create an opportunity, and 5 handwritten notes. And they don't have to be a letter, just a quick, hey, it was great to meet you. Please call if you need my help. Here's my card. Or, hey, I enjoyed meeting you at open house. I look forward to showing you property next week. So 5, 5, 5, and 5. Now, here's what's cool, guys. If you worked on average about 285 days, which probably most of you do, if not more, maybe more, and you did that every day, that would be 5,700 great connections in a year. So I want you to think back. In the last 12 months, did you make 5,700 connections? Probably not. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about marketing mailers. That's a different thing. I'm talking about eye to eye, ear to ear, email, text, handwritten note, 5,700 great connections. And the good news is it usually only takes about an hour to an hour and a half a day to get your 5, 5, 5, 5 done. So even in the busiest day, you should be able to do it. Mm-hmm. Now, as you think about getting more listings, here's what we always will counsel you to do if you're in coaching with us. The first thing you want to do is go to where your current business is coming from. Because, you know, Monica, it just makes sense that if they are super strong in a particular area, let's say, for an example, they are very involved in their community. They are a great networker. And I was just speaking to a lady yesterday about this. She gives back so much. Everyone knows her, but she never gets business from those groups. So what we were really looking at is why not? And how could she expand that? Because she already loves to do that. Or maybe they're already getting the majority of their business from their past clients and sphere. But what are the gaps? What are the missing opportunities that if they were more top of mind, they could extract even more? And I'm going to use a word I seldom use. In 20 years of coaching, over 70,000 private coaching calls, I have never met an agent that doesn't have a key source of business where there are gaps. Mm-hmm. So in other words, even if they said to us, hey, I'm outstanding at my past client and sphere of influence, I can find gaps. Mm. There are always gaps, but that's the good news, because that means when we tighten those up, just like we did with Boris, with Hugo, when we tighten those up, more business naturally flows. And it's the kind of business that they enjoy, right?
Makes sense, yeah.
So we want to find the gaps. So your database is probably, for many of you, your foundation. Nurture it, grow it. If you're new to the business, start building it. You know, start with compiling as many people as you can that know who you are. And if you have any insecurities about, well, I'm new and they won't want to use me, you know, get your broker to write a letter that they are so pleased that you have joined the company and that you've got this outstanding career ahead and how delighted they are to have you. And also all the senior support that's behind you, the team, the talent, you know, so that if they did have any concern about you being new, they know that you've got that support of senior advisors behind you. But let's get on top of putting your list together, guys. We want to clean them up. We want to be sure they're in a CRM. We want to keep notes of our conversation. And I really feel it's important to mail to the AAA and A group every month. You can e-blast them every week if you've got something interesting to send. And we want to be sure that we're calling them and seeing them as often as possible. And don't be afraid to ask them directly for business. You know, they know you need new business. And I always came from the spirit of, I love what I do, and I love to help your friends and family. Who do you know today who might need my help? can you think of just one person? And then we use our memory joggers, someone at church, someone at work, because guys, if you just say to them, keep me in mind, they mean to do that, but they get busy. They got a lot going on in their head and they just don't get around to it. Okay. Now, some of you may be geographic farmers, and please feel free, if you go to my website after this, excellium.com, we have a report there for you. You can access for free, look at free resources on building your database and tripling your referrals. And we also have an in-depth report on geographic farming. Now, people often say to me, but this is kind of an old school method. Does it still work? Most top listing agents across the country do have some type of geographic farm. What's changed, though, is the strategy and approach. You know, there's a lot of good tools and resources to really profile that farm and say, is there enough turnover here to support my return on investment? Because there are neighborhoods that are phenomenal. You know, I live in an area called Seacliff in Huntington Beach, and there is very seldom turnover there. So sure, it's a nice area. People like it. It's popular. But if I'm going to farm that area and nobody moves, that's not a great farm. You know, one of the listeners was from Santa Ana, which is just a stone throw from me here. Santa Ana has some pockets that have outstanding turnover. Now, it may not be as high end as some parts of Huntington, but who cares, right, guys? I mean, we want to get out there and choose a farm where you can get some traction. Now, once you choose an area that has turnover, then I would encourage you, study the competition. If they've been in that farm for 30 years, if they dominate that farm, sure, you could potentially beat them, but do you want to take on that battle? Or do you want to go across the street where it's not quite as aggressive in terms of a strong competitor? Then we want to set our budget. And where I see farming fail is people think that if they mail to it a few times a year, they're going to get traction. In most geographic farms, you're going to need to mail at least 2 pieces a month, right? So you want to choose your areas, study the turnover, study the competition. Who lives there? What's their demographics? So you know what kind of information to send. Set your budget, and the goal would be to have a frequency of a minimum of 2 pieces a month. Now, Monica, of course, 1 piece could be mailed and 1 piece could be a door knock. It's just, you got to stay top of mind. Go ahead. I think you have a question.
I was just going to ask if you had an opinion on when you make the commitment to farm, yes, 2 times a month, but what do you think is the minimum amount of time you should commit to doing it in order to reap the benefits? Is it a year? Is it?
Yeah, it is a long-term project, but it doesn't mean, though, that you should accept the fact that you're not going to get any business out of there for a year. You know, in my geographic farm, when I was an active agent, I think I got 2 or 3 listings within the first 90 days. But the way that I did it is, yes, I was doing the farming, but I also went after the expireds. And there weren't many, but there were some older expireds. So I went and knocked on those doors and said, do you want to sell? So actually, my first couple came from that. Mm-hmm. Now, when my husband got into his geographic farm, which he's been farming for over 30 years, he got his first listing the first 30 days. But see, we were both door knockers. And some farms you can't knock if they're gated or it's in a high-rise building. But in our areas, you could. And if you can door knock and you're willing to do that, you're going to get traction a lot faster, right? But I would say you'd have to look at geographic farming and say, that's why you got to pick it wisely. This is going to be a long-term project for me. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes there's just a great cycle and then it flattens, and then there's a cycle and then it flattens. Mm-hmm. But I would want them to do it aggressively, or it might be potentially a waste of their time and maybe they shouldn't do it at all.
Mm-hmm. Great point.
Now, prospecting around your open house, again, this is kind of an old one. I don't find that many agents do this one, though, very well. So I'll give you an idea of what I mean. Let's say that you took a listing on Monday and you put it on the market on Tuesday. And in many markets across the country, by Thursday morning, it's sold. All right. But think about it, guys. How foolish is that? Because you're not really doing the best work for your seller, and you're not giving yourself the best opportunity to get an additional listing or sale off of that open house. So I would encourage you to counsel your sellers that you need a 1 to 2 week window to prepare to launch, and tell them that what you'd like to do is get some targeted Facebook ads ready to go. You'd like to go out and invite the neighbors to come to open house with their friends and family, even potentially a sneak peek, a separate open house just for the community. That you really want to have time to do everything you can to drive a massive amount of traffic through that open house, so that there's just a frenzy of activity on that weekend, which of course serves that seller well. But what it also does, it gives you an excuse to go talk to the neighbors. It gives you an opportunity to meet additional buyers or sellers at the open house. Possibly you might even double in the property. Now, we didn't exclude the real estate community. You're going to put it on the market on Thursday or Friday, which is the best days to put on the market anyhow. Those agents are going to have access to the open house. Just don't rush to market until you give yourself at least 1 weekend of open house on a new listing. Now, Monica, there could be an exception that they just feel it's just not a house that will draw traffic. It's stuck back in a corner of a gated community somewhere too difficult to get to. But when they think it's a red hot property, give yourself at least 1 weekend. Now, what you might even want to do is, let's say then that house sells. So it goes on Saturday, Sunday, open house sells on Tuesday. Well, there's going to be inspections and contingency periods and things that have to happen. So you could say to the other agent and the buyer, we're so excited you're buying the house, but we're going to do 1 more weekend of open house just for backup offers until the contingencies are removed, which kind of drives a little sense of urgency with that buyer to hustle up, but it also gives you a chance to have another weekend to maybe pick up some additional prospects. Now, expired listings, still one of the best, although definitely in some markets, there's just not that many of them. So if you're going to work expireds, you're going to have to be aggressive. You could mail. That works in some markets, but not in most, because a lot of people might mail to them or they don't read the mail. You could call, but I know it's getting more difficult to get phone numbers. The agents that tend to have the most success are the ones that go right to the door. And if they don't get them at home, they go back to the door again. So since there aren't piles of them in most markets, it makes it rather easy to select the ones you're most excited about and hunt them down. And guys, remember, as you're talking to them, if you are talking to them on the phone or you're talking to them at the door, don't try to handle so many objections. Just get to the table. Just get in the house. If you can get in the house and they're showing you around and you can sit down and talk to them, you've got a good chance. But if you're standing at the door on the phone and you're going back and forth with them about why their house was overpriced, and you're, the ping pong match of they say something, you say something, it's not going to go very far. And here's the best way in with an expired. Mr. Expired, you have a very nice home. And what I've noticed is that the most common reason properties do not sell is due to ineffective marketing. And now, of course, we know price is part of marketing, but it is not the only piece. What I am an expert at is coming in, looking at the home, and determining with you where the marketing improvements need to be made. that will allow us to sell your home for the highest realistic price possible. Now, it only takes 10 to 20 minutes. I'm happy to do that for you because my ulterior motive is I hope it is so helpful. You feel I am so professional that you decide to choose me if you decide to move again in the future. Well, I'm not moving for 3 to 6 months. That's fine. Wouldn't you, though, still like to know? Wouldn't it put your mind at ease to have a plan? And I used to say this all the time because expireds were one of my big things. I would say, I'm going to be in the neighborhood anyhow. And, Monica, I used to do about 150 closed transactions a year as a single agent, and a good portion of them were expireds. And back then, I didn't have any flawless script or beautiful package. I just got in the door, built rapport, got to know what they wanted to do, looked at them and said, you have a great house and I can help you. Let's get it on the market. But see, the magic was getting in that door, right?
You're right.
Now, the interesting thing about expireds, 90% statistically will relist within 18 months. So once you get some contacts on those, you may want to continue to follow through because they probably will list. If they tell you they're not selling, don't believe them. They may be lying, or they may just be exhausted and depressed. But once they rest, boom, you see it come back on the market, right? And the last thing I would say on this too, don't rule them out. Don't be discouraged just because you see their list price was super high. Like I'll give you an example. A property a client just listed, and they said that originally, and it just happens to be a high end, but originally it was listed for 3.5, then it expired, it was 2.8, then it expired, it was 2.2, then expired, it was 1.8.
Wow.
Well, they went over and listed it for 1.450 and sold it for 1.4 in a week. But see, what they could have done is they could have judged that and said, wow, that price is so high and that seller must be crazy. I'm not getting into that. And instead they said, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go. I'm going to talk to them. And if they're not realistic, I'm not going to take it. Right. And same thing goes for expireds that have a low rate of commission. What the heck? They're only paying 1% to the selling agent. I'm not bothering with them. Well, guess what? Maybe they learned their lesson that discount commission didn't work. Right. Absentee owners in some of your markets, that could be rental properties and they live elsewhere, or it could be vacation home owners. We're one of the few coaching companies that have a big reach into the luxury market and also into the resort market. So we do deal with this a lot. What I love about absentee owners, they're typically not as inundated with information from local real estate agents as they would be if they lived in town. So this could be a great niche for you. What I like about the absentee owner rental property owners is that if they don't want to sell, they very well might want to buy something else in that market area, right? So if this is a niche that interests you, especially if you're very analytical, if you prefer to work with a less emotional type of client. Now, granted, a resort market home seller is going to be pretty emotional, but a rental property owner, not as much, right? So this might be a good niche. And a lot of people that do buy, if you're in that vacation home market, that buy vacation homes, statistically, they sell every 5 years. Like they buy it, they think they want it. Then there's weather. Then we're not using it as much as we thought. Oh my goodness, the maintenance and the airfare is so expensive. And within 5 years, they sell it, right? So there is a lot of turnover often in that niche. Now, some of you are good networkers, as we talked about a moment ago. Please be sure, though, no secret agent. Wear your name tag. Wear a branded polo shirt. If people see you're in real estate, they're probably going to come up to you and ask you, how's the market? Now, Monica, some of us were trained years ago that when people would say, how's the market, to say, it's unbelievable. because that kind of covered the gamut of it's unbelievably bad or it's unbelievably good.
Right.
Here's the problem, though, with that script. It ends the conversation. It doesn't open the conversation. So I want to give you guys a script that's not one we're going to send you, but this is a really good one we give to our clients. So when someone says, how is the market? You're at a networking event. You say, thank you for asking. It is a very opportunistic market. There are outstanding opportunities for buyers and still very strong opportunities for sellers. I'm curious, is there an opportunity that you have an interest in or a question you might have? So we want to very graciously open up that conversation. Now, another couple things on networking, make sure that the people in your database, your friends, your family, your networking groups, make sure they understand all of the areas that you serve. You see, it's very common that they'll niche you in their mind in the neighborhood where you assisted them or the neighborhood where they believe you work. One of our clients here in California, he said, I just say I'm licensed in California. Now, California is a big state, so clearly he's not going to work from one end to the other, but he said it's just easier. And then he goes on to say, I'm part of our referral network, Elite Agents Online. He said, I'm part of Elite Agents Online referral network. So whether you're moving across the street, across the town, or across the nation, I can get you where you want to be. So we want to work that into our scripting. And here's another thing. If you rush in to this networking meeting and the people there who know you, you're frantic, you're, frazzled, you're late, and they say, how are you? Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I'm crazy, crazy, crazy busy. Do they think you need another client? No. So calm yourself down, okay? Be on time. Be careful what you post on Facebook. When you post a lot of fun activities on the beach, doing this, doing that, when you do that and clients see that, or potential clients, they may think you're having more fun than working. Sad to say, they don't want us to have a life, right? So just be careful about what you're putting out there. Right? Now, go right ahead, Monica.
I was just going to make a comment because you hit on such, I think, an important point, and you covered it under this networking section. But when somebody asks us a question about our business, you brought up the idea that you need to let that segue into a conversation. And too often we just want to answer questions when they're proposed. So it was something I just wanted to take an opportunity to say, anytime you're asked a question, think of it as an opportunity to have a conversation and not just show everybody that you know the answer.
Yes.
So you bring up such a good point. And we can have such an important conversation if we ask questions back instead of just answering questions all the time.
And people love to talk about real estate, but you should be a market expert. You have to have some things to talk about. Keep it on the positive. Don't go too deep. And you may want to put some stuff on your phone. Like one of our coaches who is a great networker, he always has like the MLS report or some cool bar graph or statistics so he can say, actually, take a look at what's happening in our market right now. And he'll be at something like this and he'll have like 20 people gathered around him like he's holding his own little seminar, right? But networking is so valuable, and yet I do get it that some of you would never do it. You're that higher S&C, more analytical personality. You would absolutely hate this. But this is your thing. You embrace it, you go for it. But let's make sure that you get good stuff out of it, okay? Now, for sell by owners, there are some out there. There are not as many in most markets as there used to be. But the same thing applies with a for sale by owner. Just get in the door. Absolutely, go right ahead and call them. As a professional agent, I make a point to see every property in the area. May I come to see your property? Now, they could have good scripts and be very good at converting that for sale by owner on the phone. I find though that for most people, the easier way in is just to go have them show you the house. And once you're there, you can decide, is this a listing I want? Are these people crazy? Which sometimes for sale by owners are a little difficult. Are they just crazier than I want to deal with? Or do I feel that there's an opportunity here? And don't bother telling them, oh my goodness, you know, they're going to try to cut your price down, or you're getting scary strangers in your home. They're immune to that. Just talk about the fact that there is a difference between having your home on the market and having it professionally marketed, so that potentially we can provide not just one buyer, but multiple buyers that will drive the bidding up, selling the home for a higher price than they may be able to achieve on their own. So, you know, people get really stuck on this for sale by owner thing. Oh, they're mean, they're crabby. You know what? They're just people. And one of our clients said, when I'm calling the for sale by owners, I'm constantly saying the affirmation, they really need my help. They really need my help. They really need my help. Because she said that puts me in a great mindset when I'm there with them. Okay, so get in front of them. I have a buyer, letter, calls, door knocking, pretty popular. Nothing. I mean, I think if you put out a postcard that said I'm giving away free money, the phone still wouldn't ring off the hook. You know, it just doesn't. But there is some pretty good success with this one, because if someone is sitting in their home and they're thinking about the fact that they need to sell that property and they're not yet on the market, and suddenly they get a letter like that, they're probably going to call that agent. They may already have an agent they were thinking of using, but they're probably going to check that box and say, you know what, I'm going to call and see if they really do have a buyer for me. And when you've got, I wouldn't lie about it, but when you have a good buyer, or if you don't and you want to prospect using this campaign, ask the agents in your office. Say, you know, I'm going to go door knocking in Santa Ana, and is anybody in here got a buyer for Santa Ana? Perfect. Then I'm going to go out there and say, we have a buyer. Okay. So sometimes agents feel more comfortable prospecting when they really have someone they're hunting for. So ultimately, guys, to get you to the table more often, we need to have at least 3 quality sources of hunting listings with action steps, your budget, exactly what you're going to do to go after that key source. And then just like a machine, you run it like a machine. Now on the back, if you flip that form over, there's a 4th and even a 5th spot, because once you lock in your 3 good methods, then you might need to add a 4th and maybe a 5th. If you had 5 good systems to attract listings, you would probably have all of the listings you need, right? So we talked about being a market expert, and we've got to build this pipeline of future sellers and intensify the follow-up. Because of the internet, they can reach out sooner. So they start their gathering of information much sooner than they did ever before, which means you may have to nurture them. I read something the other day that the average is about 4 months before they convert, or 6 follow-up conversations. If you're hitting them once and moving on, you're leaving a lot of money on the table for someone else to get. So flawless lead follow-up is a must. Now then, when we get to the table, you've got to stand out as the clear choice. And unfortunately, Monica, maybe we can come back and do something more on the listing presentation itself. But what I would encourage them to do is go through their materials and upgrade. If your brand, your company has a 50-page presentation packet, you're never going to use it. It's too big. Extract out 10 to 15 key pages that you like to talk about. Take in your bio, take in your good reviews. And part of being that clear choice is the energy and the enthusiasm in which you approach that property. It seems so simple, but we forget how attached sellers are to their home. And maybe they spent all weekend at Home Depot redoing the front landscaping. The agent drives up to list the house, is on their phone, looking down as they're walking up to the door, doesn't even stop to take a look around, shows very little interest in the property, goes into the home and says, let me tell you about me. Guys, that's not what they want, right? So if you're going to stand out as the clear choice, it's not all about your trophies. It's about your passion for helping their home shine. That customized marketing proposal, how you're going to partner with them, you're going to be that wise advisor, and you're going to drive as much traffic to sell that home for the highest realistic price possible, right? So you may need to also change how you market yourself. Because I want to ask you, if your current marketing isn't creating the results you desire, why are you doing it, right? So in other words, we've all done things in the past like forget-me-not seeds. I've done it. Recipe cards. I've done it. Time to change your clock. Why do we need to remind them of that? I think they're going to figure it out. Now, because there is a major disruption in our industry with the major portals like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, they are now going after the seller leads, just like they did the buyer leads, and they're not going to be handing out pumpkins to get them. So I want you to think about every marketing piece you do. Is that setting you apart as the wise advisor? I think a couple of Saturdays from now, we're actually going to do a half a day live stream event where we'll be talking a lot about how to stand out in your community with your marketing. So if you want to write down my direct email, debbie@excellium.com. There's no cost to attend the live stream, and we'll be happy to send you the invitation once we get the link up and running. So debbie@excellium.com. So our marketing needs to enter the conversation in their mind. Should I move up or stay and remodel? Is it time to downsize? And if I do I sell first? Do I buy first? Should I buy a home or should I rent? Is it time to buy an investment property? And what does that look like? See, that's the conversations going on in their head. That's the type of thing that your marketing needs to address. Okay. Now, once you get there, we want to be assumptive. Assume they're going to list with you. Please take the listing agreement with you. Well, I like electronic and DocuSign. It's nice and neat. Fine. Send it later, but get a down and dirty one signed while you're there. You just can't risk it, guys. You got to go in there thinking that if you don't take that, you may not get it later, right? Because remember, everybody knows more than one agent. And I don't want you to lose another listing over price. So be careful. You know, it's not an exact science. The market is so weird right now. And you know, they've probably gone online and they've checked their values. So you should go online. What are they seeing on Zillow? It could be right, it could be wrong. Usually it's wrong, but you need to see what they're seeing. Stop using the word comp. Whenever you say to someone that their home comps to the neighbor, the first thing they say is, no, it doesn't. And you've just broken rapport. And we teach our agents to give them pricing strategies, which we don't have too much time to go through today, but basically saying there are 3 approaches to pricing your home. And let's discover together the approach that makes the most sense for your situation. So again, engaging them in the conversation. Now we want to have a well-prepared, customized marketing proposal. We also want to be prepared to withstand the commission question. It's going to probably come up. Now, there are some markets in the country where it's not bad. You know, they're still fine meeting with one agent. They're still fine paying 6 or 7%. And guys, I get it. Legally, we cannot price fix. I get it. Commission is negotiable by law. but you do have the right to earn what you deserve. So I would encourage you, first step, don't volunteer. Don't walk in and say, if I sell it myself, I'll do it for X. Don't do that. Let them ask you. And when and if they ask you, have 3 to 5 powerful methods for handling the commission objection that you can discuss with them. Don't be angry. Don't be offended. Just be prepared to hold the line and earn what you deserve. Now, are you ever going to take a cut? Yes, probably so. But you know, if you have done your best, if you didn't volunteer, if you handled it the best you could, if you did a powerful presentation, and now you make a business decision, then that's up to you. But how sad if you just go in and roll over and lose it, right? So good way to give yourself a raise. Get better at proving your value. And your value is how you're going to market aggressively. You know, I was with some agents the other day, and they work in La Jolla, California, which the prices are, gosh, probably the low end 1.5 million, the high end 30, you know, but I'd say average 5 million or so. And they said that one of the ways they avoid spending a ton of money on expensive marketing is they emphasize to the seller that they proactively prospect, that they proactively go out into the market and hunt, that they target market through Facebook, LinkedIn, and other ad sources, the ideal buyer for that home. So again, remember guys, they want you to be the champion of their value, and they want to know you're going to market aggressively. So your goal is to not just get 75 or 80% of the listings you go out on, but 98.2. So there's going to be a few you don't want. That's why I didn't say 100%. But the rest of them, we want to get them. So I want you to think about this. How many listings a month do you need to achieve your goal? Then I want you to think about, how are you going to get them? So what are your 2 or 3 actions? And every topic, that every slide we touched on today could be its own webinar. So I apologize in advance that we had to go through so much content so quickly, but I hope it sparks you to find a gap, to dig in, to improve. And I have every confidence that you could take some of these ideas away and go out into the field and get some action. But what if there was another way to get more help? And good news is there is. So remember, as I said, our coaches are all 25 to 40 year veterans in the industry. They have all sold real estate at a very high level. Many of them are still even actively selling. If you are struggling with any piece of your business, you should book your strategy call now. Don't be afraid. We're nice. We're easy to work with. And again, it is not a hard sell conversation. That's not how we do business. Because quite frankly, if you had a conversation with one of my coaches and coaching is not for you, I don't want you to do it. But what I would like to do is get to know you better and earn the right to have some type of relationship with you in the future. So if something sparked a nerve here today, we're so happy that you were with us and stayed with us. You'll get your gifts automatically, but please go to www.businessstrategycall.com right now. Someone from my customer service team will call, spend 10 minutes to find out what you want to work on, and then we will get you set up with a high caliber coach for a complimentary 1-hour conversation. I want you to do well. I want you to have a great second half. And Monica, we still have a little bit of time to get them ready for that.
Yes, that's true, but it's time. So
it is time.
If you're not at your goal, it may be the call that you need to make. So,
absolutely.
Great. Quick couple of questions that I didn't interrupt you for because you were on such a good roll with so much good info. Knowing that a lot of these folks on here are Espresso agent, expired dialer client.
Right.
When you talk about expireds, And they get that data from Espresso Agent. Do you recommend a couple different types, like maybe a phone call, and then you mentioned
Yes.
the door knock, and then you
Absolutely.
So is there value in the different approaches?
There is, and there's so much value in having access to the information you provide, because most agents struggle with that. And if they have access to quality data, absolutely, first point would be go to those phone calls and get in the door. You know, if they're very good, as I said, and they really practice their scripts, they might be able to convert that to a listing appointment on the phone. But use the valuable information that you guys provide to make their job easy, to get in the door, to identify those targets and opportunities. And even if they have the phone number, if they can't get them on the phone, then use that information, go out and get out there in the field and say, hey, I tried to reach you, couldn't reach you, and I wanted to come and see you.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. Not to mention just you find your voice through talking with expireds. And so if the way you can hit up more people right now in this market is by knocking at the door, the point is just to find your voice and find out how you're able to help these guys. Then the phone calls become easier and a little bit more natural and all that.
Well, and if you think about it, which is what I love about what you guys do and provide for them in your service, who better in the world could we call or see than an expired?
I mean, they've got their...
They want to sell. We know what they were asking. They've already been through the process and got beat up, so now they're probably ready for us. And 90% will sell within 18 months. You could not ask for a better ratio than that. And guys, you know, again, what's that old saying? It's better to be the firstborn, the second wife, and the second or third listing agent on a higher end listing. So I encourage you, take your data and go after those little bit higher price points, because even if they take a bit longer to sell, when you're getting them on an expired, they are more likely to be reasonable. Plus, a lot of the agents out there in the general market, they will not target the higher end because they're intimidated.
It makes a lot of sense.
So I do see, Monica, that we got about 1 minute left, and I do have to be on another webinar in 1 minute. But again, I want to thank you. You always do a fabulous job. Your company does great work for these people. I hope they don't just buy the service, but use it.
Use it is the secret. Well,
use it, guys. And please feel free to take advantage of the strategy call, and please email me your questions, Debbie@excellium.com. And just thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you all today.
Good stuff, Debbie. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. See ya.